Hi YouTube, it's ACDodd here, and welcome to the last episode in Series 4 this year. And in this particular episode, we're back to ML Motorsport, and I'm going to do another special on Stage 1 kitted 998 Minis. So without further ado, let's get stuck in. And here we are, ML Motorsport, and it's Stage 1 time. So we've got a brace of minis in for this weekend, and I thought I'd put something together on the old Stage 1 kitted 998s. I've done it before, so we'll do a continuation. Here is a lovely little minivan, and it's got a low compression A+, with a Stage 1 kit. So let's dig in, see what it needs. Okay, so getting into this one. This one's already been through ML, so it's already got the right coil on. The only thing I did do with the plugs are black, so I'll change the plugs. It's a new set of BP5 ESs. I adjusted the timing by about 6 degrees, a little bit more advanced on there. The vacuum's all working well, which is excellent. So engine itself is responding pretty well. Then we turn our attention to the carburetor. So let's have a quick look at the fueling. So if we have a look at that fueling, that's idling. 2000 is too rich. 3000 is too rich. 4000 is too rich. And 5000 revs is too rich. So I wonder what needle might be fitted in this one. Shall we have a look? Okay, just before we have a look at the needle that's fitted in there, I was just taking the opportunity to show you there. Now, this car hasn't been tuned by ML Motorsport, but they've obviously, they've been working on it, so they've made sure the right bit's in, and they've obviously called me in to do the tune-up. But the important thing to understand in here is look how rich that was all the way across the rev range. Now, that poor little engine is basically having its bores washed all the time, so that the only time that engine was was not hurting itself was effectively when it was idling. But as soon as you try and drive it, it was just too rich everywhere. Now, this is what happens when you fit the wrong needles in after you put your Stage 1 kits on, and you basically, ignorance is bliss. So you put the Stage 1 kit needle in, and you have no idea what the fueling is. And that's why it's important to measure actually what's going on after you've done any tuning modifications. So, as I've already said there, I wonder what needle we would possibly have in here that's causing this to be that rich. Let's have a look. Okay, so we got the needle out. So what do we think's in there that's running that rich? Oh, look what we've got there. It's the treble A. As I keep saying, these are usually way too rich. Now, proof's in the pudding. That one there is way too rich for this particular 998. There's a couple of reasons for that, and that is because this is a low compression 998 with a 850 style camshaft, so it's a much milder engine because it's the original van engine. So what we need to do now is to change that for something like an ABD, and hopefully that will lean her up, and then we've got something to work with. So let's get that done and get it dialed in. So, working on the carburetor, obviously the treble A that we've taken out. I tried an ABD, that was still a bit rich. So I've gone back to an AAE, which is pretty close. The other thing I've done is I've also done the usual and drilled the airbox. Now, I haven't drilled it all the way around because I'm trying to get some ram effect, which is what I've done. The rubber seal was missing as well. Now, you might think that's a bit strange, but actually I've just measured a 4% gain in airflow by actually fitting that rubber seal versus not having it. So it does make a difference. So effectively we've got more airflow, so we're now going to modify that needle to get it spot on, and then we should be good to go. Okay, a couple of things I want to clarify there by what I'm saying. So one of the things I talked about there is a gain in airflow. So the way I'm measuring that is effectively by a change in lambda reading. Okay, so when I say 4%, that's like going from 0.96 to lambda 1. All right, so effectively, that's where I'm talking the percentage. It's not necessarily a 4% airflow change, it's a 4% change in the mixture that we're seeing. All right, so the point is, if it leans out, it's leaning out because there is more air flowing. Okay, so that's the important thing to understand. Now, the other thing is we're talking about there is a lot of people say to me, it's all right for you, Ade, you know what the needles are. I hate to break it to you, but I don't know what the needles are for these cars. All right, I have to do it by measurement. All right, so obviously I've measured that the fueling on this particular car is too rich, so I've made a suggestion there we go to an ABD needle. Well, I put that in and that was still too rich, so I actually had to go down to an even leaner needle, which is an AAE. So in this particular case, you have to go down by measurement and choose the appropriate needle which gives you the appropriate fueling. Now in this particular case, what I'm looking for is a needle that is lean enough that and close enough so I can just give it a little tweak to make the fueling absolutely bob on all the way across the rev range. So hopefully that helps you understand, some of the processes that I go through. Okay, so we got this one dialed in. So in the end, K&N air filter in the airbox, drilled airbox strategically to increase the airflow, which is what's happened. Ended up with an AAE needle, which has been modified. Fueling's pretty good now, so very happy about that. Let's have a quick look. So that's idle. $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and about 5,000 RPM. So we can see that's spot on. Time for a test drive. So the art of obviously dialing in the tune there is to get the fueling right across the rev range. So I just wanted to show you the corrected fueling curve. You can see it's a lot leaner. So something like 16-17% change in fueling, which is very, very appreciable. Obviously the engine will like that because it will no longer be washing its bores, but also your pocket will like it in terms of the fuel consumption, because that will reduce massively and the power will be optimum as well. There was no owner around to actually test drive this one, so Andy at ML Motorsport took the car out for a test drive, and he confirmed to me that it performed very well for a low compression engine. So he was well impressed with the turnaround. Now, obviously, one of the things I also did there was drill the airbox and also put in a K&N element. So to actually maximise the airflow. So even though that engine was a very standard specification with the low compression pistons and the very mild camshaft that you add in the commercial models, we was able to actually make that perk up quite considerably and make the best that we could do with the standard specification. Anyway, having said all that, let's move on to the next one. Okay, we've got a racing green, and this one is another one from locally down this area, and it's another stage 1 kit 998. So let's go and have a chat with the owner, see why he's called us down. Okay, so this is James. James is the owner of this nice Mini. So why have you brought it here today, James?
I took it off the road a little while ago. Children came in the way, etc.
Oh yeah.
It sat in the garage for a little while, and then found it didn't start. Tried tinkering around with it.
Yep.
Got the carb cleaned,
Yep.
and ever since then it needs a tune up, and it's been like that for about 18 months. So,
Okay, so when you say it needs a tune up, what's it doing or not doing?
it's really rough at the moment.
Okay.
So the last drive up here, I was crossing my fingers I'll actually make it. So it is quite bad.
So when you say rough, was it flat spots?
Yeah, just
Okay.
flat spots all over the rev range.
Okay, all right, well, let's dig in and see what we can find.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so just a bit of an opportunity before we do the tune, just to have a listen to this one, because, obviously the owner's brought the car down here today, but he did say he struggled, so just have a listen. So bearing in mind that was nearly full throttle and it wouldn't even rev all the way up. So that's how bad this engine is. So let's dig in and see what we can find. Now here is an example of a car that really needs a tune, because I put that shot in there because it just gives you an opportunity to listen to an engine that's in very poor state of tune. So open the throttle there and she wouldn't go anywhere near maximum revs at all. In fact, I had, you know, anywhere I opened the throttle, she just wouldn't go up the rev range at all. So there's a number of issues wrong with this one. So let's dig in and find out exactly what was causing that. Okay, so why am I showing you this dizzy? Well, we had a bit of a misfire and it weren't moving, weren't revving up. So there's part of our issue. So that condenser, although it's an aftermarket one, is actually loose. So what I'm going to do before I sell the guy a complete new distributor, I think I'm going to tighten that up. I'm going to adjust the points gap because we've only got 35 degrees of dwell, and actually see if we can get an improvement, and we'll go from there. Okay, so what we were looking at there was a loose screw that holds the condenser. So the actual condenser, as found, I removed the distributor cap, was wobbling around. And that basically means that the screw that holds it down is also its electrical connection, the earth for it. So there's an intermittent connection, because when that's in the engine, that would rattle around with the RPM changes on the engine and cause all sorts of electrical maladies, which is one of the reasons why this engine was running very poorly. So what I basically did is secured that back in by tightening up the screw, making sure all the wires were right. I also tweaked the points, and let's see what else we can find with this one. So got the engine back together. Obviously we found that loose condenser. Anyway, tighten the condenser up, adjusted the dwell angle a little bit. Didn't really change the figures too much, but what we have got now is and I haven't even moved to the carb yet, so let's get over and get onto that and see what we can find. Okay, so that sounded a lot better. So all I did there was screw down the condenser and obviously adjusted the points a little bit. But the important thing to understand is a lot of these cars aren't ready for tuning when they come in. They actually need repairs. You know, like a loose condenser. So, you know, this owner's no different to a lot of other owners. They drive cars around, or they use cars, and they don't realise, you know, some of the issues that are actually present in their engine, causing them to run that badly. So literally tightening that condenser up, just adjusting the points. I didn't do anything else, and away she went. So let's move on to the carburetor and see how that turned out. So what did this one take to get it in? Well, it had the treble A needle in, which was as usual too rich. So pulled the treble A out, and we've now put in an AAF needle. That needed modifying between 4,000 and 5,000 RPM. I also put quite a bit more fuel in at the top end of the rev range. Yeah, it's not come out too bad. The other thing is I took the oil out of the dash pot and I put some 2050 in. So she's on the money now. So things for the future for this one. I think the owner might go for electronic conversion. It just doesn't need it today. And then carburetor wise, we're all pretty good. So yeah, time for the owner to go out for a spin and see what it's like. Thanks to my usual tardiness, I didn't actually manage to get the owner on film there to film his reaction. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that was the second car that had a treble A needle in it that was again too rich. So if you need any more evidence to back up what I'm saying about, you know, don't fit the treble A needles in the stage 1 kit 998s, you know, this is it. Okay, I also had a third car on that particular day that had a tuned 1040 engine in it, which also had a treble A needle in it, and that tuned engine with a ported head was still too rich with a treble A needle. So what I'm trying to say here is the treble A needle has got no place normally in any of the 998 engines, okay? So just bear that in mind. You shouldn't be fitting those in these engines because they're just usually too rich, and it will actually damage your engine. The level of richness is determined by the tolerances and everything else on the engine, and obviously it's air demand, but typically they come up too rich. So in this particular case, I went for an AAF needle. Now, if you remember the last car, I had to go down to an AAE needle, okay? So, you know, the point I'm trying to say is, although it's a stage 1 kit, it's a different needle. This car needed a slightly richer needle, and it also needed modifying again to get the best out of that engine. And that is also a 998 engine, okay? But the difference between those two vehicles is a little bit of age, and also one was a milder spec, okay? So just because they're 998s, the spec and the age will have an effect, and the tolerances will have an effect on the requirements. So one needle doesn't suit every single car, and that's what I've been trying to say. Anyway, let's move on to the next car. On to the next one. Another little 998, little HL from the 80s. Lovely car, nice Survivor, with a 998 engine again, and this is another stage 1 kit that's come in for a tune. So let's have a quick look. The owner's not here, so this is a car that's been left with us to tune. So we're warming up nicely now. Let's have a rev. That was nearly full throttle. As we can see, we got some work to do here because this thing won't even rev. So let's get stuck in. A bit of deja vu. Remember the first car we had on this video wouldn't rev? This one's doing exactly the same thing. So stay tuned and let's find out what's causing this one. Okay, so we're getting into this engine. First things first, we noted a few things. One of which is it's been retrofitted with a 65D Dizzy, which is good. The leads on it were quite old, so I've removed those and changed them for a set of Power Spark ones. The plugs were a set of BP6s, which were in the usual state when they turn up for tuning, you know, black. All right, so we're clearly not running where we should be, as we can see, BP6s. So we've changed those for a new set of BP5s. They're all gapped at 35 thou to run with this high power ignition. And then we turn our attention to other things. Now, tops off a float bowl, and that's purely because we started running the engine and it was leaking everywhere. So, move over to why it's leaking. Take it apart. Someone's already been in here and rebuilt it, but as you can see, when they've got the line around that seat, that tells us that that is not your normal seat. That is the large bore one. So you can see the size of that valve hole in there. Unfortunately, that means it requires more float pressure to hold that in, and if you've already got a delivery pressure problem when you're over 1.5 psi, you're going to have problems with that leaking. So that's exactly what's happening. So we'll change that to a normal size seat, put it back together, and hopefully we can continue with the tune. This is a fairly common one I see. Somebody's rebuilt the carb or has certainly done some work to it, and they fit the wrong parts. So this has got a 96 thou needle valve seat in there, and the problem with the 96 thou one is, yes, it lets more fuel in, but you don't need more fuel, okay? The way the seats work is if you have a bigger hole with the same pressure coming in, what it'll actually do is put more force onto the float, so it takes more force for the actual float to close that valve off to stop the fuel flow. So that's what was happening in this particular application. So the remedy there was obviously for me to change it. Just thought I'd give you a close-up there. If you look at the size of that piece of rubber, that was in the bottom of that threaded hole, okay? So that's exactly what you get when you don't use fuel filters on your fuel pipes and things like that. So yeah, something to bear in mind when you're having an old classic car is you always need a filter, because things like this will cause you problems. So when you start looking into these cars, you find problems, and this particular one was having issues with the fuel pipe that was connected to the carburetor. It was I think it wasn't a particularly expensive braided hose type of pipe that was connected from the fuel pump to the carburetor. Point is, it had started to degrade and bits of rubber would started to come out and find their way into the carburetor. This is how you start getting running problems, and obviously when I was in there looking at stuff, I could see there was some detritus in the bottom of the float bowl as well. So the point is, filters on your classic cars, and also go through and change all your rubber hoses that take any of the fuel, right, to the modern standard that is rated for ethanol petrol. So getting into the timing here, I've just checked the timing on this engine, and our advance curve is actually quite slow. So we're actually getting about the right length. It's just coming in very, very slow. So we're not really making enough ignition advance at about 2,000 revs. But in this particular case, I'm already hitting the budget limit. So I'm not going to be able to change that. So what I'm going to do today is just make sure that the vacuum's working, and then just power time that ignition to get the best out of this particular advance curve that I can. So that's what I'm doing. I just wanted to add that little bit in there. On every car that I come to, I'm always cognizant of the budget that people have got. You can't just go changing everything that it needs. This particular car clearly did have an issue with its advance curve. Just fitting a 65D distributor off of a Metro is no guarantee that that distributor has got the right advance curve for your application. So it has to be checked, measured, and then determined to see if it's actually correct. In this particular case, it wasn't quite correct, which would mean that the performance wouldn't necessarily be as optimum as if I changed the advance curve. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that not everybody wants to spend lots of money on their car. So in this particular case, what I opted to do was to obviously make the best use of the components that were fitted. So with that in mind, let's crack on. So onto the carburetor, and the needle on the left is what come out of it. Now that is a needle supplied by some stage 1 suppliers, which is an AAV. That is normally so lean, it's it's not even worth using. So what I've done is I've gone straight for my usual AAF, which is actually in this particular engine virtually spot on all the way up to 5,000 revs, where it just goes a little bit lean. So all I've done to that one is add a little bit of fuel at 5,000 revs, and then added a little bit of full power and on progression. So let's get that in, and hopefully we'll be ready to test drive. Okay, so got this stage 1 all dialed in, which is fantastic. So just a quick recap. Didn't change the advance curve in the end, but just optimised the ignition. We got BP5 spark plugs, gapped at 35 thou, original ignition, changed the HT leads, all good. Moved our attention to the carburetor. We put a new needle valve in the float chamber. Also got rid of the braided hose because we found that rubber chunk in there as well. Obviously, in due course, the owner needs to put a fuel filter in there just to make sure that we don't get any more contamination. In terms of the carburetor, I had to thicken the oil up in the carburetor, dashpot in the end, gone up to 2050. Got a modified AAF needle, and let's have a listen. So compared to where we started, that's much better. Yes, I can confirm that drove very well. So Andy did the usual test drive and he was very happy with the performance. So again, another one there that had the wrong needle in from a kit supplier, but on this particular one it was much too lean. So I again went to the AAF needle and it needed modifying, but it wasn't the same as the previous one, and that's because tolerances make things different. Okay, so even though I started with the same needle, the modifications were different, and that's the important thing to understand here. Is once you try and get the fueling right on these cars, the subtle differences needed between the needles are so small that there aren't the needles available, and that's why they have to be hand fettled to get the actual fueling exactly where you need it to get the best performance. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. I just want to say thanks again to ML Motorsport for allowing me to put this second video together, just focusing on Stage 1 kits. I thought I'd do another video on the Stage 1 kits purely because there are so many cars out there with Stage 1 kits. There's also so many owners that are so disappointed with their Stage 1 kits, and that's because the kits don't always have the right parts in them, especially needles and springs and things like that. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing in the future is just to remind people I'm having a new needle made, and that needle will be a new designation. Its 3-letter designation will be AFA. Very shortly I shall put out the needle dimensions. SU will obviously have that information, and in due course when they print out more needle charts, it will be included in that needle chart. So just watch this space, and obviously watch my Facebook page for the information when that needle is available. From the point of this video coming out, it'll be imminent or within a week or so of this video coming out. So the Stage 1 kit needles will be available from obviously Berlin. I will carry them when I'm doing tuning, and also I understand that Mini Spares is going to stock them and obviously sell them with their kits as far as I'm aware. So the point is, those needles are a better fit, okay? They're not going to be perfect for every application. And if you take this video as an example, we had three 998 Stage 1 kits here. They all needed different needles, okay? So that's the important thing to understand, is you're not going to get them perfect without getting them dialed in and taking some measurements and understanding the fueling requirements for your particular vehicle. The difference is the new AFA needle will get you closer than has been available before. So that's why I've gone ahead and got that needle produced, so you can actually you know, stand a chance of getting your car to perform better when you bolt on the Stage 1 kit. There's also going to be another video or two on the best way on how you can set up that new needle when you install it in the carburetor, to actually be able to baseline that needle when you haven't got any you know, technical equipment like you see me use here. So you know, this is some advice that we can give you to be able to set that up ready for tuning, to get the thing finally dialed in. Anyway, again, thank you for watching this year. I really appreciate all your continued support over the year. I will look to do more tuning videos next season, once the weather warms up. There'll also be a few specials, as far as I'm aware. If I can get anybody that's interested in doing some tuning over Christmas, then please contact me on Facebook Messenger and we can discuss that, especially if you've got some very nice or interesting or different vehicles. That would make a nice Christmas special. Anyway, as I said before, thank you very much to ML Motorsport for allowing me to make these videos and obviously tune cars, and I'll look forward to seeing you on my next video. Thank you very much.